Hello everyone and welcome to my video here today. Today we're going to be taking a little trip through parts of Canada. We're going to be heading down Highway 93 to go to the Athabasca Glacier. And I'm going to be pointing out a few things along the way and just giving a little bit of information, some material as we go through and travel through one of the most beautiful places, in my opinion, in the world. So what you're going to see here is us driving and traveling along Highway 93 in Alberta, Canada. It's also known as the Banff Windermere Parkway. And the portions that we go along is also called the Ice Fields Parkway because you're going to see a lot of ice fields, as well as you'll see here in a little bit, go up to the Athabasca Glacier. So you'll see lots of those throughout the way. You probably saw at the start of the video, we started alongside a river. That is actually the North Saskatchewan River. Very beautiful river that is a glacier-fed river and follows the road for quite a ways through this scenic drive. Highway 93 also parallels the Continental Divide, which means the water will either go to the Atlantic Ocean or the Pacific Ocean, depending on which side it falls on that Continental Divide. There's also a unique place here in this area that provides a third area where the water could fall, and that also goes up to the Arctic Ocean. So throughout this area of Canada, you could have water that goes to the Pacific Ocean, water that goes to the Atlantic Ocean, as well as water going into the Arctic Ocean, which is a very unique feature. You'll see that Highway 93 travels through both Banff National Park as well as Jasper National Park. So like I mentioned in the beginning, this does travel and go through some of the most beautiful areas in the world along this highway. Some of the history behind the highway is that it was predated by the Canadian Pacific Railroad, which kind of started running through things in 1885. Then in 1931, during the Great Depression, the government ordered the road to be built in order to connect Lake Louise and Jasper. And it was completed by about 600 men, and it was opened up in 1940. And when you think about it, it was done prior to a lot of the modern machinery that we have here today. So it was done by a lot of kind of pickaxes and really a lot of manual hard labor going through these Canadian Rockies. And so it's a pretty big undertaking in order to create this highway to connect Lake Louise and Jasper area. It's pretty amazing because during July and August, you can see up to 100,000 cars pass through here per month. In order to travel through this section here, you do have to have a Canadian National Parks permit because the highway through this is maintained by the Canadian Park System. Because like I mentioned before, it does go through Banff National Park as well as Jasper National Park in order to kind of make the connection between those two. Some of the most notable sites you'll see along here are going to be the Crowfoot Glacier, Bow Lake, Peyto Lake, North Saskatchewan River, like I talked about before, falls right alongside there. There's also going to be the Athabasca Glacier that we're going to show here and get up close with here in just a few minutes. Sunwapta Falls, and like I said, into Jasper National Park. Throughout the trip, there's a very good chance you'll see some wildlife such as deer, elk, bear. We saw a mountain goat on the side of the hill as we were stopping for lunch at a nice little campground just off the side of the road. And then also I ended up seeing, which is very unique, I ended up seeing a wolverine on the side of the road that was kind of running across a road, dirt road just off the side there. So there are kind of abundant wildlife that are living there along this stretch of the highway. And throughout Canada, you'll see that along the highways there are these kind of underpasses that are built into the highway that the overpass itself will have grass and trees built on top of it. They actually built that so that animals are going to be able to cross across the top of that instead of taking tunnels below the highway or trying to run across the highway. They built these above ground paths so that animals can have a clear view of what it is they're going into, so it's more natural for them to pass through. And that's helped out significantly to reduce the number of wildlife that are ended up killed on the side of the road through auto accidents or things like that. And so you'll see that throughout Canada, which does help protect quite a bit of the wildlife there. On the drive out there to the glacier, you'll see tons of rocks on the side of the road. Those are rocks that have been moved a lot of times by the glacier. Now, of course, Columbia Icefield Adventures has to go through and plow roads through there, so some of them have been plowed out there by machines and man-made vehicles, but the rocks in general are being pushed around by the glacier that is moving down that mountain. And like I said, I'll get into a little bit more on glaciers here in just a little bit, but you can see just how much rock is being moved just by that glacier there. And when it moves those rocks, it grinds them together and it creates what is often called rock flour. The glacier. This is the Athabasca Glacier that we're on, and it's estimated to be about 12,000 years old. It was discovered by European explorers in the 1700s, and it was named after the Athabasca River. When it comes down to the size of this glacier, it's about 6 kilometers long or 3.7 miles. Over the past 125 years, the Athabasca Glacier has receded significantly. It loses more than 1.5 kilometers of its length and over half of its volume. So currently it's losing depth at a rate of about 5 meters or 16 feet per year there. One thing to know is throughout this trip you'll kind of find that there's a difference between glaciers and ice fields. Now, glaciers are frozen rivers that are continually moving and creating that rock flour that I talked about before, so you can kind of think of it as that river moving down that mountain. Whereas an ice field is more of a blanket that feeds the glaciers. So you can kind of think of them like a giant frozen reservoir that feeds into those glaciers, which are the rivers that are moving slowly down the mountain. Now you'll see the water coming off the glacier. That water is pure water. This comes from, I ended up drinking some right off the ice, and it was delicious cold water from there. But one of the really unique things about this is that the snow and the ice that's been compacted up there has been there for quite a long time. So some of that could be ice and snow that fell hundreds of years ago or something like that, because it has been compacted down and packed down so much because there's just snowfall on top of snowfall in there. So kind of cool to think about the fact that you can drink water from snow that fell a couple hundred years ago from that. You'll also see that a lot of the lakes and the rivers around here have a very unique color, and that color is because of the rock flour that you're getting from those glaciers. And so it does cause the colors to be more unique and a little bit different color than most of the rivers and lakes that you'll see typically because of that rock flour. Now, just because the water is going down into those lakes and in rivers, that doesn't mean you'll want to drink that water. Um, the rock flour itself that's kind of gathered throughout its journey down there, that could mess up your stomach and leave you feeling not very good for a few days if you do try to drink that. Thank you for spending some time with us here today and seeing some of those beautiful areas of Canada. I will be updating the channel more frequently with other videos from some more of our adventures and other things that the kids do as well. So please stay tuned to the channel and find more videos that you'll hopefully like.